Hello, this is Zhengliang, Jiadi, and Yi. Our project is named About Straw, About Future, studying a potential strategy to integrate the use of bio-based materials in the building industry and how it can benefit local communities. The UK has aligned to a net zero policy by 2050. Both the net zero policy and the target are failing in its objectives, and the building industry is a big example of it. The buildings and construction sector accounted for 36% of final energy use and 39% of energy and process-related carbon dioxide emissions in 2018, 11% of which resulted from manufacturing building materials and products such as steel, cement, and glass. Therefore, building materials and construction play an important role in carbon emissions. But in the meantime, we are not on the right track. According to the report by Materials Culture called Circular Bio-Based Construction in the North East and Yorkshire, only in the North East and Yorkshire of England, there are 2.8 million homes to be retrofitted to meet the EPC Band C standard. Also, the Riba Climate Challenge target requires that the embodied carbon within buildings should be reduced from 1,200 kilograms per square meter to less than 625 kilograms per square meter. In order to meet the 50% reduction of embodied carbon, there will need to be drastic changes. An alternative to these has been the exploration and use of bio-based materials, which are characterized by their environmental friendliness and alignment with low or no carbon emissions. This is a catalog of many building materials and insulation materials that we are using nowadays, including both conventional materials and bio-based materials. The GWP refers to global warming potential. Bio-based materials have large advantages over conventional ones. This means that using bio-based material in construction brings significant benefits compared to the current building methods. The other is a diagram showing the comparison between different building materials and how much carbon dioxide they produce out of the gate per kilogram. We can see that the bio-based materials, for example, straw, wood fiber, timber, and hempcrete, have totally different characteristics to conventional materials such as concrete, steel, and plastics. They not only have lower carbon emissions in the process, but even absorb the carbon within themselves. In terms of availability, these maps show us the spread of farmland of barley, oats, and wheat in the UK. Wheat is the most popular farmed crop in the country, with a good capacity to adapt to the changing climate and the environment. Straw stalks can be extracted from them and made into different kinds of bio-based materials, such as straw bales or prefabricated straw panels. Here is a representative project called Lilac, located in Leeds, built with prefabricated straw panels produced by Mortsell Company in Bristol. It costs less money to build and has extraordinary insulation performance due to the characteristics of the materials. Here is a thermal image taken by the researcher, and the other is a picture taken by the resident in the house. As we can see, the heat escaping from the houses is lower than the houses behind, which use conventional materials to build. But still, since the prefabricated panels are produced in Bristol, transporting them from such distance demands several trucks driving hundreds of miles. A quick and rough calculation shows at least 70.48 kilograms of carbon dioxide emissions were produced in each round trip per truck. From this issue, we can see that only using bio-based material doesn't mean that the building industry can be transformed or that the net zero policy is enough to reach goals such as the Paris Agreement of 1.5 degrees. To minimize carbon emissions, we should not only improve the materials we use to build, but also think about the carbon dioxide we produce as part of the whole system that makes up the building industry. To test this basic idea, we looked at 3 projects that together can help us demonstrate how a new strategy for the building industry can start to be imagined. So, we studied the main features of these 3 projects to see how they can be linked to further our research. First, we took a look at the winning proposal for the Eco Home Pavilion promoted by the London Festival of Architecture to work on, called Straw in the Wind. It has been planned to build as a temporary building in front of St. Paul's Cathedral in the summer of 2024. Made from straw, the purpose of the pavilion is to raise awareness of bio-based material and to demonstrate that, for example, straw can be used as a construction material with many properties and advantages over materials like concrete, bricks, and steel, and provide a carbon-neutral building. We want to see how it is designed, what does it take to produce these building materials, and is it possible to produce them on site? To answer these questions, we start by analyzing the pavilion structure to understand the components they're using. With straw filled into the timber frame structure, Mortcell Company provides this kind of straw panel that can be directly used as load-bearing wall or non-bearing walls. Straw in the Wind used these panels to structure the pavilion. Revolving panels can open or close the walls, allowing people to pass through every side of the pavilion and making it a versatile space for a flexible future program. In order to have a further understanding of how the system works, we calculated the amount of materials needed for the pavilion. For example, the canopy, which consists of timber and recycled plastic sheets. Timber is about 1,044 kilograms, and the plastics are around 54 square meters. As for the housetop, the beams are all made from timber. Approximately 1,152 kilograms of timber is used in this part of the structure. Beneath the top, 4 timber posts support the ceiling, and all the surrounding walls are made from straw panels. In the panels, there are at least 1,280 kilograms of straws, and the timber frame weighs about 384 kilograms. This project provides a successful building case, but what about the production and the manufacture of the materials? Is it possible to integrate this with the principles of agroecological production? So this is why we study another case called Wakeling's Farm. Wakeling's Farm is a 22.5 hectare arable farm in Suffolk. They have experimented with agroforestry systems and collaborated with the Organic Research Center to collect data and promote sustainable agriculture. Their alley cropping way has been proven to be the best way of crop farming nowadays. They have in total 56 rows of trees in the whole area. The tree row gap between 10 to 12 meters. With crops farmed in between, they can prevent insects from attacking crops from land to land and keep fragile crops away from the strong wind. They also help to build up the environment in the area by producing wood sticks and experimenting with hemp production. This diagram shows the biodiversity evolution in the first few years Wakeling's Farm was established, which is an added value of this type of agroecological environment. So, instead of bringing straw from a large land of typical monoculture landscapes, how about farming and collecting the straw from our own site and use it on site, while providing a variety of food crops for a local community? Finally, we decided to test this in Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park, using Wakeling's Farm as an inspiration to organize agroecological farming. We are going to select a piece of land where we can potentially plant and harvest straw to build the Straw in the Wind pavilion, but also to introduce agroecology, so the pavilion can be provided with materials and products for its future program by our agroecological landscape. We selected this piece of land within the Queen Elizabeth Olympic Park. It's in the east of central London, used for the 2012 London Olympics, and is now a part of the parklands. We imagine that we can lease this patch of land in a similar way public interest enterprises have been doing in the park to provide services, such as the commercial pavilions existing throughout the park. The land marked is today a rarely used lawn within the park with no or little vegetation. Still, it is an interesting location next to the Hay East, a hub of a creative and fabrication industry from where we could draw some synergy in the future. Our plan is divided into 3 major parts: healing, farming, and sharing. When we look into the site, we noticed that soil health was influenced by former construction behavior that happened upon it. The first thing to do is to heal the soil. After restoring the nutrition of the soil, we should move on to farming. Farming includes crops and other vegetation. And after harvesting enough, it is to share the benefits of the harvest with the community.
The soil situation is that the sandy soil is on the surface, currently only covered with grass, and some earthworm about 10 centimeters after digging down. In the first year, the primary focus is on soil improvement. The site is known to have soil that was treated to mitigate soil pollution after the 2012 Olympics, although it meets the conditions for herbaceous plant growth. However, some deficiencies still exist in the soil structure. So soil improvement remains the main goal in the first year, using 3 kinds of nitrogen-fixing plants to transform the soil of the site. There are nitrogen-fixing bacterial symbiosis on the root system, and the soil's nitrogen content can be increased after planting. During the transition from the first year to the second year, some small shrubs are interplanted. This is done to assess soil quality by observing the growth of these shrubs, providing insights for future plants. In the second year, trees start to be planted. Following the experience of Wigling's farm, tree rows are planted in between 2 adjacent cultivation areas. This not only reduces wind damage to young crops, but also provides some level of insulation against potential pests and disease, thus reducing the environmental impact of pesticide use. In the cultivation areas, winter wheat is planted in autumn and will be harvested in the next summer. The first picture illustrates what a wheat crop looks like. After harvesting and drying, we acquire the dry matter of the wheat. For our project, we will focus on straw and what is needed for its production, in which 51% of the weight belongs to the grain, 32% belongs to straw, 11% belongs to the chaff. The remaining 6% are leaves and dead shoots, and 32% of them are what are known as straws. According to existing statistics, in 1 hectare of land, you can harvest 18.4 tons of dry matter in 1 year. To be on the safe side, you can count on 25% to make up for the loss through transportation and selection. So that means we can acquire 4.6 tons of straws from 1 hectare of farming land. The nearby Here East contains workshops and university labs, which can help us with the manufacturing process. Also, the mold cell company can provide us with the expertise necessary to assemble the prefabricated straw panels. After harvesting the wheat straw from the site, the raw materials would be chopped and processed. Then, it would be filled into timber frames and made into panels. The panels can be used on site to build up a pavilion. Then, in the third year, as most of the straw required for constructing the pavilion has already been produced, some straw planting areas are transformed to grow vegetables. This helps in soil rejuvenation while ensuring progress in the construction of the straw in the wind pavilion. Additionally, some fruit trees are interplanted in the isolation zones for city farm production. In the fourth year, all construction on the site is completed, and crop rotation is implemented in planting areas within the site. Some of these planting areas are converted into growing beds, serving the daily needs of the community. Extra wheat and straw can be provided to local restaurants or made into more panels for construction nearby.
After all this have been done, we can see from the section how it is transformed from this vacant land to this lively, lush land with abundant biodiversity. The proposal foresees the integration of a pavilion such as straw in the wind with the local community, using as much as possible the land available to produce necessary materials for construction while benefiting from the production of a variety of crops which can be used to serve and distribute some samples of food to local veggie boxes for educational purposes, to the nearby primary school, or provide some basic ingredients to zero-waste restaurants such as Silo in Hackney Week. In short, to create and expand synergies and ecologies beyond the use of bio-based materials in the building industry. What we try to do here is a more comprehensive system. We did this experiment to see if producing construction materials on site is possible and expand the usage of farming land in the afterlife. This map shows the publicly owned land in Greater London. By overlaying the green land, we can get this map of publicly owned green land in London. We want to demonstrate that there are many potential sites or land where small experiments like this can be implemented around the city and provide a testbed for alternative models in the building industry. Thank you so much for revealing.